Hey, yo, yo, yo. Shalawam, shalawam. This your brother JAHsh. All praises to YAHAWAH, Akkad. And just coming at y'all because something I want to go over or discuss. Once again, all praises to Yah for breath and delivering thought patterns and formations in our mind. So there's a thing going on amongst so-called Hebrews, Yasharal, whatnot, and it's a certain type of thought that's trying to place the so-called Holy Land here in the United States, and I would say it's almost like a gheist, if you will, like a spirit that's moving amongst us. And it's definitely intriguing, at least on my part. It's definitely something that I've done a little bit of research in and done a little bit of looking into, if you will. Albeit I'm not the type that is too concerned over what particular parts of land is the so-called Holy Land, because that would detach me too far from the knowledge that Yahawah owns all of the earth. As the scripture says, the Arats is Yahawah's and the fullness thereof. So if you are one in your walk with Yahawah, then everywhere you go, based off who you are, either your vibe will be picked up as Yasharal, or other people who spiritually are Yasharal will pick up that you are Yasharal. So, but in saying all of that, I do find it intriguing that this particular gheist, if you will, is amongst Yasharal. Is amongst the so-called blacks, amongst the so-called Hispanics, amongst the so-called Mexicans, and I'm sure it's also picking up elsewhere in the world. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to just put out there, if you will, just put out there. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting when we think about language and linguistics, when it comes to looking at biblical maps and looking at these places, because from what I've seen, perhaps the thought for all of this began from a particular book called When the Rocks Cry Out. I believe that's the name of that book. I've never read it. I've seen a couple videos where it goes into what the author's notions are of the Holy Land being here in the United States. It also goes into certain artifacts that were found here in the United States, or said to be found here in the United States, that point to Hebrew ancestry here, and point to Yahawah the Yath, or the language, a Paleo, a Picto sort of language that could be found here, which I don't disagree with. But in saying that, I don't discount the fact that if you were to look across the whole world, you would find still traces of the Picto and the shamanic language around the whole world. So whenever I look at certain videos of people saying this place literally is this place, then it's like none of those videos really go in depth per se. Like, they may do a Google Map search and be in like, yo, I found Utah I found Ephraim in Utah, or I found Mount Nebo in Utah, um, or I found the Great Salt Lake is the same as the Dead Sea because it's salty, and it used to cover all this area, and all of that. That's great and that's cool, and it very well could be, you know what I mean, that the so-called Holy Land is this or was this particular land at one time. But whenever you apply real scrutiny to these theories, then none of them really hold up. Because if you took a Bible or if you looked at a map of the so-called Holy Land to this day, then the placements of things where brothers and sisters are saying are here in the so-called United States, not all of the places and locations match up. Or I've yet to see someone put a video out or um, do some really, I'm talking about like in-depth research, or at least show a compare and a contrast to a biblical map, as opposed to United States map or an early United States map, so on and so on. So it just seems like to me that it's too easy to go to Google Maps and to, let's say, put up a Judah, Texas, or a Jericho, Texas. You know what I'm saying? And then you would find these places in Texas, and I'm using Texas because here I am. So the thing is, I wanted to just get these thoughts out and maybe get it out to the rest of Yasharal or those who tune in, to see what y'all perspectives are on it, because it's something that I'll look into. I don't really religiously look into it, but since it is a gheist, if you will, that's moving amongst Yasharal, then sort of like Watchmen styles, you want to just peep what's going on around the community of us worldwide, right? But also to also go into it, there's a lot of evidence, not just in the United States, but elsewhere in the world, that the so-called Semitic language is prevalent throughout many parts of the world. So you could easily adapt the United States is the Holy Land thought to the Himalayas or to Asia, right? Going towards the Philippines, and even, of course, to what's called the Hawaiian Islands or the Polynesian Islands today, because it is known that there was a larger landmass over there, and also in between the continents where the Atlantic Ocean is today. Some say Atlantis was there. Who knows? I haven't did that much in-depth searching for that. But I'd be a fool to think that there wasn't any land masses in between these areas. You know what I'm saying? There's just too much evidence of it. Even growing up reading comic books, there was even an in-depth map of the Pacific Ocean in Lemuria, and so there was there's that was they got that, the ones who put that out got that from somewhere. But like I said, I don't put too much stock into all that as being hardcore facts, because like I said, for one, it's not up to me to be the one to uncover. Perhaps that's for other people out there, and that's another reason why I'm making this little short monologue about it, because I am curious to see what Yasharal is coming up, or what y'all think about these so-called discoveries. So yeah, and another thing is, to further go into my point, some people say that what I've seen is they say that the Holy Land, so-called Jerusalem or whatnot, could be in Cusco, South America. So if that's the case, then if you took that and you lined it up with what some people are talking about the Utah area and how Jericho would be right up in there, then logistically on a map it doesn't add up. So there's all kinds of holes in these theories. That's another reason why I find it intriguing that I haven't seen a video yet to go into the holes that appear when you try to apply. Okay, this person's saying the Holy Land's here. This person's saying the Holy Land's here. Let's map it out. Let's look at it biblically, and even in the Bible where it says it's this amount of days journey to get here, or it's this place this far from here. It doesn't add up. Now, I understand the argument of, well, the continents are not the same now as they were then, and to that credit, that's definitely something worth applying to thought when going into the subject. But still, that would be the only way that it would make sense, is if the continents, so-called, were more condensed and together. But you would have to be able to explain the modern day Middle East, so-called, and Asia, in comparison with the modern day North and South America continents and so-called biblical locations too. And I haven't seen a video that has been able to put that together. It's like all these people are getting these notions and getting this inspiration. They're putting out these videos, but in getting that inspiration and getting these ideas, they're becoming blind to having to have an answer for the rest of the lands that exist. So that's why it's very hard for them to come up with a concrete hypothesis, for lack of better words, or concrete fact in regards to these theories. So, and plus, the land that we consider so-called Africa today, so-called Middle East, Asia, even Russia and Europe, are very old lands, and to really put out to really put out theories that they're putting out, our own people are putting out, by the way. These are Yasharal who's putting these things out in large parts. Some of them aren't Yasharal, some of them are just maybe perhaps Christians, or maybe perhaps Christianized Hebrew Israelites or whatnot. But just for the sake of keeping on subject, it's this gheist, if you will, is going around all the so-called religious community, especially on the internet community of YouTube and Facebook, and it's just interesting. It makes me think of those two sisters who had that campaign about moving to Brazil. I wonder whatever happened to them. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, you got in Brazil, you got a so-called temple that was built that's twice the size of what the physically what the temple would have been, and you got some people saying that just because they built that, then that's where the Holy Land is. But it doesn't hold up. For instance, what I thought about was this book that I have, and it's called Jesus Died in Kashmir, right? Now, I'm only going to use this as an example because it does go into places that are in Nepal or the Himalayas, if you will, of Semitic names that can be found literally littered throughout the Himalayan areas. But you don't see no one talking about that place being the Holy Land. And that place is even known in theory to be also the place where they considered Moses and the so-called Jesus to have lived out, and especially what this book was talking about. So I'm gonna just go into it just a little bit, just to show you that there's holes in all holes. Sorry, my speech impediment is strange. Sometimes I'll say holes and it sounds like I say hose, but perhaps there's a connection there too. So this one says linguistic parallels between names occurring in Kashmir and neighboring lands and names found in the Bible. Right? Right? Names of tribes and castes and subcastes. Kashmir. So the tribe name in Kashmir is Abri. Just to show you what it looks like. You probably can't see it. And my screen protector makes it all hazy. But here's a list that this book goes down. And it's a lot more too, also. See? It has a whole bunch of names that are compared and contrasted. For the Himalayan area alone, right? Whole bunch of names. So perhaps you can pause your screens, or and even has the biblical references too on the page, and go and just do some study on it yourself. Check it out. Here's more. The list goes on and on and on. Let's see what else. And this list that I just put up was in Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? Let's see. This list right here is Baltistan, Gilgit, Ladakh, Pamir, Tibet, and neighboring regions, and also Kashmir and neighboring states. And this is all in this book, man. And I have not seen anyone publish something like this. Perhaps that book, When the Rocks Cry Out, has this much in depth compare and contrast, but I doubt it, to be honest with you. This much compare and contrast as far as this city is named this is its Semitic comparison, and this is its biblical reference. Man, the list goes on and on and on. So let me just say that of this book, it starts on page 59, and the list, the name comparison list name stops on 74. So it has that many pages of compare and contrast with the Semitic language, the shaman language, the shamanic language, shamatics. All praises to YAHAWAH. And if you want to look about getting a copy of this book, it's called Jesus Died in Kashmir. And it's definitely an intriguing, interesting read. There is a lot of theories, of course, of so-called Jesus. But it has at the bottom it says Jesus, Moses, and the 10 lost tribes of Israel. So this goes into the 10 lost tribes of Israel being on that side too. But you don't see a video from our own people who are putting out that the United States is the Holy Land, comparing and contrasting with this book. You don't see that. And another, I know why. That would be a large body of material to have to research. But if you're going to put out this land is this and this land is this, you got to put out a whole lot of research material, or it just doesn't hold up. And in the end, it really breaks down and shows that YAHAWAH owns all of it. And the joke of it all is that he's got y'all deluded into wasting your time trying to figure out what place is holy, without trying to refine your holiness inside in your own land, and developing your own temple in Yasharal, which is your mind. And all praises to Yahawah, and allowing Dawad to be Mashiach over your land. But that's not what none of these people, none of these Lex Wills or 432 drops, or none of these people putting out these videos are ever going to teach you. And so you're missing the actual Tarawah that so-called Yeshua or Yahshua or YAHAWAH was going into, or the Torah teacher, or Zedekiah, for lack of better words, of Zadokites, Malaka Zadoks, you know what I'm saying? So, man, what is this little map here? Okay, so this one has a map of, this is supposedly what so-called Jesus's journey was after he was so-called crucified, and he went towards the east, in what we would modernly concern ourselves with being the east, so-called. So my outlook on it is it's all true and it's all false. You know what I'm saying? You got to know what your journey eastward looks like as the Torah teacher. What was your journey like? Right? Too much external will make you lose track. You dig? So I wanted just to, let me go back and actually go to some of these comparisons, right? Just to show you, right? So this is in the place called Kashmir, or Kashmir. The tribe called Abri, its biblical equivalent would be Ibri. The tribe Akwan, its biblical equivalent would be Akan. The tribe Amal, its biblical equivalent would be Amal. Asau, its biblical equivalent would be Asahel, right? And these, the biblical equivalent, these tribes I'm reading off are tribal names that are in Kashmir in the biblical equivalents. Tribal name Baal, of course. Biblical name Baal. Tribal name Bala. Biblical name Bala. Bakuru. Biblical name Bokeru, or Bakara. So Baktu, Baka, But, Bath, Caleb, and the list just goes on and on and on. So just wanted to put that out there, you know, just to see that before any of you brothers and sisters watch these certain videos, or, you know, maybe get bored and you're searching for new knowledge out there in the world on social media, just don't get too carried away, you know. But anyhow, what's your thoughts on this? You know what I'm saying? Big ups to the Torah Knights, by the way. Big ups to Sons of Jacob putting out that information. Big ups to Born Again, to Yah. We making this music, man. We doing it, these songs, giving our thanks and praises to YAHWAH. You know what I mean? Big up to Trey Tell and Talina. Big up to Brother Judah coming through. September Reloaded. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. And all the brothers that we communicate with out there. Word up. Keep studying up. Keep studying up on that shamantics. You know what I mean? Praying that Yahawah aligns you so that, you know, you're able to pull from the wells that are within Yasharal, you know what I mean? You know, and that you can give big ups to the king when he visits us from his palace, you dig? Word. All right. Shalawam.